Hey guys, what's up? My name's Josh, and together we are going through the Montana CDL Manual for 2016. Essentially, why I started doing this was because the material is really dry just sitting here reading it, and I've always been the type of person where I learn better by doing, so I thought, actually, that's not true. Maggie's my girlfriend. You'll sometimes hear her in the background. And you'll also sometimes hear our pug Marvin. Maggie had the idea for me to make videos because then I could talk about what I'm learning, and it might help me and it might help someone else, and it might also put us in contact with other people that are going through what I'm going through right now, which is I'm getting ready to begin my apprenticeship to get trained to go and take my CDL and then work for the company that's training me. So, that's a really exciting and nerve-wracking thing at the same time. I'm nervous-sighted. So, this is video number 9. So, essentially, they're all going to be in a playlist, and they're all going to begin just like this. And I keep trying to say it a little bit differently so it's not like the same script. But, in the description box, which I always call my pants, you're going to find a link to this manual online. You're going to find a link to a page where you can take practice tests. And I'm also going to go over that in a video later, much later after we're done going through the manual. You're going to find a link to a video with Ruby, a Wil-Trans instructor. She goes through the entire pre-trip, and I really, really recommend you watch the video because she's really thorough, and it's a strong visual aid. And there's also, in the beginning of each video, going to be questions that we answered from the last video, or questions that we had, rather. We didn't have any questions from video 8, and we did take a little quiz in video 8, so, those were answered during the video. Whoops, I forgot to start my watch. Okay, well, whatever. So where we are right now is we're at section 2, driving safely, page 2-8, and at subsection, I guess, 2.2, basic control of your vehicle. And if you have any questions, concerns, or whatever, if you find this in the future and you're like, wow, I have questions, I'm going through that now, ideally, I should be a driver by then. And if there's ever anything that I can do to help, please reach out to me, because I've had some amazing people helping me and giving me wisdom and advice and suggestions and answers. And so in honor of them and their gift to me of helping me, I would love to do the same for others. So please feel free to reach out. I'll do everything I can to answer your questions, and don't be upset if there's a delay, because I may be driving and you can't answer questions when you're driving because you're driving. No texting and driving, right? Moving on. Okay. Basic control of your vehicle. To drive a vehicle safely, you must be able to control its speed and direction. Safe operation of a commercial vehicle requires skill in accelerating, steering, stopping, and backing safely. Fasten your seatbelt when on the road. Apply the parking brake when you leave your vehicle. 2.2.1 Accelerating. Don't roll back when you start. You may hit someone behind you. If you have a manual transmission vehicle, partly engage the clutch before you take your right foot off the brake. Put on the parking brake whenever necessary to keep from rolling back. Release the parking brake only when you have applied enough engine power to keep from rolling back. On a tractor trailer equipped with a trailer brake hand valve, the hand valve can be applied to keep from rolling back. My sister Katie has talked about this before with a car that has a stick shift or a clutch manual. And I was always like, I never heard of putting on the parking brake until you hit enough gas that you could pop the brake off and move forward. But apparently, our Aunt Amy and Uncle Steve, they drive truck, and they drive a CMV, and it makes so much sense why she would know that, because that's something that obviously you can do in a CMV, and it completely makes sense. So essentially, if you're in neutral, or not neutral, if you have your foot on the brake, if you put your foot down on the clutch and then give it gas and then slowly let off the clutch until you can move forward. It's another train. That happens a lot.
Are you still recording?
Yeah. I was cold. Like really cold. Okay. I wanted to grab a hoodie and turn the heat up a little bit because it's really quite cold. And Maggie's under an electric blanket, so she's like, it's not cold. You're always cold. I'm like, you're under an electric blanket. Hush. Okay. So it makes sense that you can do this. So speed up smoothly and gradually so the vehicle does not jerk. Rough acceleration can cause mechanical damage. When pulling a trailer, rough acceleration can damage the coupling. So you don't want to jerk forward or jerk to a stop. That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. So on a tractor trailer equipped with a trailer brake hand valve, the hand valve can be applied to keep from rolling back. I guess that actually makes a lot of sense, because even if the trailer's not going anywhere, your cab's not going anywhere either. That actually makes a lot of sense. Speed up very gradually when the traction is poor, as in rain or snow. If you use too much power, the drive wheels may spin. You could lose control. If the drive wheels begin to spin, take your foot off the accelerator. 2.2.2 Steering. Hold the wheel firmly with both hands. Your hands should be on opposite sides of the wheel. If you hit a curb or a pothole, a chuck hole, the wheel could pull away from your hands unless you have a firm hold. Why would the wheel pull away from your hands, though? I guess because it's the seats in a tractor trailer seem to be spring equipped, so you might there might be a rock to the cabin. I'm not sure. 2.2.3 Stopping. Push the brake pedal down gradually. The amount of brake pressure you need to stop the vehicle will depend on the speed of the vehicle and how quickly you need to stop. Control the pressure so the vehicle comes to a smooth, safe stop. If you have a manual transmission, push the clutch in when the engine is close to idle, so you don't stall, I would imagine. 2.2.4 Backing safely. Because you cannot see everything behind your vehicle, backing is always dangerous. Avoid backing whenever you can. When you park, try to park so that you will be able to pull forward when you leave. When you have to back, there are a few simple safety rules. Start in the proper position, look at your path, use mirrors on both sides, back slowly, back and turn toward, this is one of the questions. Back and turn toward the driver's side whenever possible. And the reason for this is so that you can follow the path of your vehicle by looking out your window or in your mirror. When you back towards your other side, you can't see. That's why it's called a blind side, because you can't see. So that's one of the questions, and I think it covers more down here. Use a helper whenever possible. This is another question. Why would you use a helper? So that they have a job? So that, because everyone needs to feel important? No, it's because you have blind spots. That's the answer to that question. That's why you use a helper when you're backing. These rules are discussed in turn below. Start in the proper position. Pull the vehicle in the best position to allow you to back safely. This position will depend on the type of backing to be done. Now for your test, you're going to have to do all of them. Straight backing, 90-degree alley docking, and the blind side. But normally, when you're driving, they tell you always back towards the driver's side so that, whenever possible, so that you can, like, see what you're doing, because it makes the most sense. Look at your path. Look at your line of travel before you begin. Get out and walk around the vehicle. Check your clearance to the sides and overhead, in and near the path your vehicle will take. Use mirrors on both sides. Check the outside mirrors on both sides frequently. Get out of the vehicle and check your path if you are unsure. Back slowly. Always back as slowly as possible. Use the lowest reverse gear. That way you can more easily correct any steering errors. You also can stop quickly if necessary. Back and turn toward the driver's side. Back to the driver's side so that you can see better. Backing toward the right side is very dangerous because you can't see as well. If you back and turn towards the driver's side, you can watch the rear of your vehicle by looking out the side window. Use the driver's side backing, even if it means going around the block to put your vehicle in this position. The added safety is worth it. So true. But for the sake of, like, learning, you will have to do a blindside for your test. So make sure you practice that with your instructor or with, your school or whatever. Don't like shy away from it just because you shouldn't do it in real life as often, because you will have to do it at times. And you will have to do it to get your CDL, so you might as well know how. Use a helper. Use a helper when you can. There are blind spots you can't see. That's why a helper is important. The helper should stand near the back of your vehicle where you can see the helper. Before you begin backing, work out a set of hand signals. This is one of the questions as well. That you both understand. Agree on a signal for stop. One of the questions is, what's the most important thing you should agree on with your helper before you begin backing? One of the answers is like the volume of the music, and no, it's always the signal for stop. Okay, now we're on section 2, driving safely, page 2-9, subsection 2.3, shifting gears. Correct shifting of gears is important. If you can't get your vehicle into the right gear when driving, you will have less control. 2.3.1 Manual transmissions. Basic method for shifting up. Most heavy vehicles with manual transmissions require double clutching to change gears. This is the basic method. Release your accelerator. Push in your clutch and shift into neutral at the same time. Release your clutch. Let your engine and gears slow down to the RPM required for the next gear. This is going to take practice. From driving a stick shift or a manual vehicle for my car, I also understand that your engine is going to have a sound. You can go by RPM, you can go by miles per hour, or you can go by the sound of your engine because you'll learn that. But that takes... This is why all of my cars have had a name. Because I feel like once you get to know your car, you get to know what it sounds like normally and how it operates, and it's a bond, in my opinion. And that's kind of what this sounds like. You're getting used to the feel and the way that your vehicle performs, and then you know what to listen for as you're shifting. I love driving manual cars, so I'm really looking forward to driving a truck that's a manual. Really looking forward to it. I'm actually kind of geeked about it, but I'm also scared because it's a big responsibility and it's pretty dangerous if you're not really mature about it. So I'm trying to be both, but I'm really geeked about it. Okay. Push in your clutch and shift to the higher gear at the same time. So essentially, you're going to take your foot off the accelerator, you're going to put your foot on the clutch, shift into neutral, take your foot off the clutch, wait, listen, look, and then put your foot on the clutch and shift into your higher gear at the same time. Release the clutch and press the accelerator at the same time. Shifting gears using double clutching requires practice. If you remain too long in neutral, you may have difficulty putting the vehicle into the next gear. If so, don't force it. Return to neutral, release the clutch, increase your engine speed to match the road speed, and try again. So essentially, you get stuck in clutch or in neutral if you stay in neutral for too long. So that sounds like it's a little bit different from driving a stick shift, because with a stick shift on a car, if you stay in neutral for too long, that's not a thing, because then you just go down one gear and put it in that. But the engine speed sounds like it has to be comparable to what your road speed is. Interesting. I'm looking forward to learning about that. Knowing when to shift up. There are two ways of knowing when to shift. You can use your engine speed, RPM, study the driver's manual for your vehicle and learn the operating RPM range. Watch your tachometer and shift up when your engine reaches the top of the range. Some newer vehicles use progressive shifting. The RPM at which you shift becomes higher as you move up in the gears. Find out what's right for the vehicle you will operate. Interesting thing that I learned elsewhere is when you're in the higher gears, your engine retarders work really a lot better. I think I learned this from Jason and Heather's channel, Crafty, the Crafty Trucker. Basically, so when you're in the higher RPMs, the engine brakes work a lot better because that's what it's slowing down. Moving on. You can use your road speed, mile per hour. Learn what speeds each gear is good for. Then by shifting the speedometer, you'll know when to shift up. This is what I've always done for my manual car. And I also listened to the engine, because when my car would, the engine was working really hard, I knew that it was ready for the next gear. So that was something else. Maybe that's applicable for the trucks. I don't know yet. I guess we'll find out. Basic procedures. Oh, actually, with either method, you may learn to use engine sounds to know when to shift. That's cool. So I was kind of on the right track there. Basic procedures for shifting down. Release the accelerator, push in the clutch, and shift to neutral at the same time. Release the clutch. Press the accelerator. Increase the engine and gear speed to the RPM required in the lower gear. Interesting. So you're going to press the accelerator, increase your engine and gear speed to the RPM required in the lower gear. Then push in the clutch and shift to the lower gear at the same time. Release clutch and press accelerator at the same time. Downshifting, like upshifting, requires knowing when to shift. Use either the tachometer or the speedometer and downshift at the right RPM or road speed. This is one of the questions on the test. Special conditions where you should downshift are: before you start down a hill, slow down and shift down to a speed that you can control without using the brakes hard. Otherwise, the brakes can overheat and lose their braking power. Downshift before starting down the hill. Make sure you are in a low enough gear, usually lower than the gear required to climb the same hill. Before entering a curve, slow down to a safe speed and downshift to the right gear before entering the curve. This lets you use some power through the curve to help the vehicle be more stable while turning. It also allows you to speed up as soon as you are out of the curve. What are two circumstances when you should downshift? Before you start down a hill or before you enter a curve. There may be others that you should downshift as well. It's a test, people. For the one question, there's some guys that commented on Facebook for this website, and you know how websites have an ability to share on Facebook or whatever, and at the bottom you can comment. Yeah, well, there were guys who was like, oh, I've been in this field for 20 years and I know all sorts of times when you should downshift and blah 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 blah. What's the point of this test? Okay, it's standardized. Okay, so they're looking for the best answer. Maybe it's not the all-inclusive answer, and that's okay. But we all just want to get through the test, right? So if you've got 20 years in this field, why are you on this testing website? Just my question. We're just trying to get through this test and make sure that we qualify for our CDL. So just go with it. Learn what they need you to learn, and the rest of it's going to be real world application. So it's okay. Just get through this test. We can do this. And don't get into Facebook flame wars. It's crazy. Okay, 2.3.2, multi-speed rear axles and auxiliary transmissions. Multi-speed rear axles and auxiliary transmissions, man, say that 10 times fast, are used on many vehicles to provide extra gears. You usually control them by a selector knob or switch on the gear shift lever of the main transmission. There are many different shift patterns. Learn the right way to shift gears in the vehicle you will drive. That sounds complex, which is appealing and not appealing to me at the same time. I think 10 gears is going to be enough for me with my engine retarders and the differential lock, and there's a lot going on in these trucks. Seriously. Okay. Automatic transmissions. 2.3.3. Some vehicles have automatic transmissions. You can select a low range to get greater engine braking when going down grades. The lower ranges prevent the transmission from shifting up beyond the selected gear unless the governor RPM is exceeded. It is very important to use this braking effect when going down grades. 2.3.4 Retarders. Some vehicles have retarders. Retarders help slow a vehicle, reducing the need for using your brakes. They reduce brake wear and give you another way to slow down. This is one of the questions. There are 4 basic types of retarders: exhaust, engine, hydraulic, and electric. Exhaust, engine, hydraulic, and electric. So 3 E's and an H. Exhaust, engine, electric, and hydraulic. All retarders can be turned on or off by the driver. On some vehicles, the retarding power can be adjusted. When turned on, retarders apply. Turn the page. Now we're on page 2-10. What did it say? Wait a second. When turned on, retarders apply their braking power to the drive wheels only whenever you let up on the accelerator pedal all the way. Oh, that's cool. Because these devices can be noisy, be sure you know where their use is permitted. Caution: when your drive wheels have poor traction, the retarder may cause them to skid. Therefore, you should turn the retarder off whenever the road is wet, icy, or snow covered. This is just like cruise control. Never use cruise control when the road can be wet. Also, right after it begins to rain, even if it's not really wet yet, that's when the oil comes up on the roads. That's when it's most dangerous, or incredibly dangerous, I should say. So it's kind of like cruise control. If the road's not dry, you shouldn't have your retarders on. Okay, subsections 2.2 and 2.3, test your knowledge. God help me. I do not like these little tests. They make me nervous because there's nowhere for me to check my answers. So, if you're watching this and I get one of them wrong, please tell me. If I get things wrong, please tell me. Because I'm a rookie. I'm still learning this stuff. So I'm not going to be like, well, how dare you correct me. I'm not that guy. So just tell me if I mess something up. Okay. Question number 1. Why should you back towards the driver's side? Because you can look out the window and see the back of your vehicle advancing or reversing. So that's why. Because you can see, essentially. Number 2, if stopped on a hill, how can you start moving without rolling back? You can put your parking brake on. If you have what's the word? If your trailer has a hand valve or a hand brake, you can put that on. Or you can alternatively put your foot on the clutch and then get your engine speed up high enough that you've got enough pressure, not too much, and then slowly let off the clutch and move forward. Number 3, when backing, why is it important to use a helper? Because you have blind spots. That's what they want to hear. Because you have blind spots. Not because somebody else needs a job or needs to feel important. Because you have blind spots. Question number 4. What's the most important hand signal that you and the helper should agree on? Stop. The question that I've encountered is like the music level, turn the music up or whatever, which is why I remember this. Stop. That's what you should agree on. What are the 2 special conditions where you should downshift? Again, don't get into a Facebook war if people are commenting that this question's ridiculous because there's a lot of reasons to downshift. True. What's the question looking for? It's looking for before we start down a hill or before we enter a curve. That's when you downshift. When should you downshift automatic transmissions? This one's hard because I don't care about automatic transmissions because I'm not going to be testing in one. But I may have to drive one someday, so it's important for me to know this. Okay. When should you downshift? We just read this. Why don't I know this? You should downshift automatic transmissions. I don't want to look. I want to know this. And I don't know it. Crap. We literally just read this. This is why learning like this is hard for me. Come back to it. Question number 7. Retarders keep you from skidding when the road is slippery. True or false? False. It's like cruise control. If you're using it and the road's at all wet, you're going to lose control, potentially. So, no, retarders do not keep you from skidding when the road is slippery. False. Question number 8. What are the 2 ways to know when to shift? You can go by your RPMs. You can go by your miles per hour. Alternatively, you can also go by your engine, how your engine sounds. I feel like it's the speedometer, the tachometer, or the way that your engine sounds. I'll double check that. Okay, so question number 6. When should you downshift automatic transmissions? Oh, I know, Marvin, I agree. I feel the same. Same.
No barking.
I feel like it's when you're at a downgrade. I feel like when you're going down a grade, like, you should shift down so that you can only, so that it keeps your, I feel like so that it keeps you in the lower RPMs and you can't go above a certain speed. I have to go back and check. Automatic transmissions. Some vehicles have automatic transmissions. You can select a low range to get a greater engine braking when going down grades. The lower ranges prevent the transmission from shifting up beyond the selected gear unless the governor RPM is exceeded. It is very important to use this braking effect when going down grades. So I guess I was right? Right? I think. And then question number 8 makes me a little nervous. What are the 2 ways to know when to shift? Because shifting gears. Knowing when to shift. Knowing when to shift. Use your engine speed, RPM, or use road speed, mile per hour. Speedometer, and the tachometer. Okay, so I was right. Good deal. Alright, so we're going to end this video here. We are going to go right into the next video after this.